Alrighty, guys, we did a segment about this a few weeks ago when it was reported, that none other than Thunderbolts director Jake Shrier was going to be tapped to direct the upcoming MCU X-Men film, which is arguably one of the most anticipated and perhaps pressure-filled MCU films since Spider-Man Homecoming, since Spider-Man No Way Home. You know, the X-Men are akin to Spider-Man in that they are part of Marvel's crown jewels in terms of their canon and their characters, right? You can talk about Iron Man and Captain America and Thor, but really, those characters pale in comparison to Spider-Man and the X-Men, for example. So it's a big deal. And we did a segment a while ago talking about how, yes, I'd be very excited to see Jake Shrier direct the X-Men film, the upcoming X-Men film. He directed Thunderbolts. I really like Thunderbolts. And since then, what we've seen is that Thunderbolts has quietly kind of bombed at the box office. Bombed not in the sense of making $50 million or even $50, but making about $370 million, which for an MCU film, and especially an MCU film that was well received, is a pretty big disappointment. However, it's worth pointing out, and I think this has always been true of Marvel, is that once Kevin Feige works with a director that he enjoys, once Kevin Feige finds the talent, they keep them in the Marvel family. And I think that that's a really good thing, because you start collecting. And I say collecting, it's, not like they're actually collecting directors like Infinity Stones, but you start, having a collection of directors that are ready and willing and able to direct MCU films that are amazing, that are standout, that are noteworthy and exemplary. Just look at the Infinity Saga and the kinds of directors that became a part of the Marvel family. Ryan Coogler is an outstanding, amazing director. James Gunn directed the Guardians of the Galaxy films, and I think he did quite well. Joss Whedon was like that before all of those things that came out about him later on, but then you had the Russo brothers, the two Captain America films that led to Avengers Infinity War, Endgame, and now Doomsday and Secret Wars, right? You have Peyton Reed, who, yes, this isn't, it's not 100% hit rate, because Peyton Reed directed Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and that didn't do so well. So it's not like every single time it works out. Same with Taika Waititi for Thor Ragnarok and Thor Love and Thunder, but they have a deep bench of talent. And it's interesting because while people have not enjoyed Phase 4 and Phase 5 and now upcoming Phase 6 as much as I think, they would have liked, myself included, even though I don't hate Phase 4 and Phase 5. In fact, I quite like Phase 4, and I think Phase 5 has some good things in there. The bench, I think, is actually still there. It's still growing. Case in point, the directors of Moon Knight, even though Moon Knight was not my favorite MCU show, went on to direct a lot of Daredevil Born Again. And I think that while Daredevil Born Again as a show was pretty uneven, I liked them as a directing duo a lot. Same thing with Destin Daniel Cretton, who was originally going to direct Avengers Kang Dynasty, and now is directing Spider-Man Brand New Day. John Watts, who has been quietly making brilliant MCU film after brilliant MCU film in the Spider-Man trilogy, is part of that roster as well. And so now you can add Jake Shrier to the list, because I think Kevin Feige is smart enough to know that box office in this case does not equal the quality of the film, right? I think it's a little bit different when you have characters, for example, like, oh, should we do a Thor 5, even though, we have a really good director? I think that's a little bit of a different scenario versus a director, because I don't think the directors are as visible per se, right? Maybe, I wouldn't be surprised if Marvel took another shot to make another film with Chloe Zhao, even though Eternals bombed in terms of box office and critically, even though I love Eternals, I think it's great. But Chloe Zhao is a visionary director. And so Jake Shrier being a part of this, I think it makes total sense that he would direct the X-Men film. All that to say is that this has been something that's been circling around, and I think it's a great idea. And recently, about a week ago, Variety put out a sort of a newsletter article, and in the Variety article, they basically talked about a lot of different things, and it was just a throwaway line in there, which is why I didn't cover it initially, because I was like, it doesn't feel like a whole story. Maybe they did a throwaway line because they had already broken the news that Jake Shrier was going to be the director of Thunderbolts, but there was no official confirmation. So I was like, it would just be a repeat segment. Why would I do that? But the reason we're doing this segment now is because Black Panther director promoting Ironheart, Ryan Coogler, the executive producer of Ironheart, I think has confirmed it. Now, I think there is a chance that he maybe didn't confirm it actually, but let's just hear what he has to say. So he was promoting Ironheart, and somebody asked him, because he was a fan favorite to direct the X-Men film, again, the Marvel bench of talent, right? He's definitely somebody I would have loved to have seen direct the X-Men film. And he said, quote, "I'm not doing it. Jake is doing it. Jake is directing that," is what he said. That's his direct quote. Jake Shrier. Now, the possibility that he that this is not an official confirmation comes from the idea that maybe he also had just been hearing things from social media and from the trades, and he took that as confirmation. Maybe he's not talking to Kevin Feige all the time, even though he is executive producing Ironheart, and he is I guess, going to make Black Panther 3 sometime in the near future. So it seems hard to believe that he wouldn't know about these kinds of things, but maybe he's just disconnected and he saw something on Instagram. Again, those Instagram posts are flying around, like confirmed. Jake Shrier is directing the X-Men film. And maybe he saw it and he was like, yeah, no, Jake's doing that. And what this does confirm is that he's not doing it, because if he was doing it, I don't know why he'd say something like that. So Ryan Coogler is definitely not directing the X-Men film. But I think Occam's razor, right? What's the simplest explanation for this? The simplest explanation for this is simply that he knows, and that he thought it was just confirmed, a done deal. And he has come out and said Jake Shrier is directing the X-Men film. So I would put this now, because we have the Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, Variety. They all reported that Jake Shrier was directing Thunderbolts, and that is about 85% certainty, right? It's not official. It's not like Marvel has put out a press release, but it's about 80 to 85 to even 90% official, I would say. Ryan Coogler saying this, I would put it at 95. We're not there yet. I don't even know. Will we do another segment when they officially announce it? I hope that comes with other announcements about the X-Men movie. I think it will, with casting and whatnot. That might not be for another year or so. But, I think we're almost there. I think we're almost ready to say officially Jake Shrier is directing the X-Men. There's just a very small part of me that goes, maybe there was a misunderstanding. So we will have to see about that. Guys, what do you think about this quote-unquote confirmation from Ryan Coogler that Jake Shrier is directing the X-Men movie for the MCU? Let me know in the comments down below.